Hey everyone, Tony here again. Today's a little bit of a slow day for me at least. So I decided to spice it up a bit and take a look at crypto, specifically Bitcoin. And I drew. Let me just start from scratch, as I figured I'd give a lot of people, at least some people, I'd give a perspective, my perspective on the macro. I know that if you tune in, YouTube has a million videos of a bunch of people just doing technical analysis. Some of them are good, some of them are not so good. It's very shilly, to say the least. So I figured I'd pull up the Bitstamp chart, which is if it's not the oldest, at least it's the one that I know to be to have the oldest data going all the way back to August 2011. So I'm on a log chart because this is such a we go from the lows of $2, give or take, all the way to the highs of 20 or just about 20,000, give or take. Let me see here. 19,666. Eek. So yeah, I wanted to give my perspective on this. So I'm going to give you the monthly here, and I'm going to draw two of them. I'm going to draw from this swing low to this swing low. And that gives you a very good idea of how Bitcoin has acted overall. Now, granted, this is a long span to draw a trend line, but it gives you a decent idea on the log chart. Now, the cool or interesting part is that here, the last couple of months, we've actually tested, and we actually broke below it, closed below the line, tested the 20 EMA. So the yellow that I have here is a 20 EMA, and the red is the 50 EMA. We rallied up the next month, and we closed above the trend line. Right now, we're again testing and currently below. We still have 3 days in the month, so we had to see how this whole thing happens to see how the macro bearish, bullish looks. But that right there doesn't look too hot overall for that trend line, because it really hasn't ever been broken. Now, I know that a lot of people may have some trouble with this particular trend line. I don't see a problem with it, but a lot of people will go from this August 2015 forward. So at the end, it's technical analysis is more of an art. So there's no real 100% right or wrong. This is more of how you see things. In this particular case, if we take this low, you can see that it actually has a little more confluence, where we have one touch, 2, 3, 4, and does that go? Yeah, now I'm confused with my own lines. I put this one as, actually, I'll leave that one as blue, and I will turn this one, maybe I'll turn this one orangey. No, it's going to be hard to see. I guess yellow's fine for now. So, yeah, so one touch, almost touched over here. So it's been support, very good support since 2015. So I guess it really depends on how you want to draw it. So let's say, I would honestly say both are valid in a way. This longer term trend line to me is interesting. It's very interesting. I would actually add, I don't know if I'm going to add more weight, but I just like the fact that it's being respected. So it's hard to say which is right or wrong, but whatever. That's up to you to choose. For now, let's get rid of this long one, just for the sake of keeping the charts clean. And so we have that longer term trend line. And now let's draw one from the swing high to this swing low. And you can see that we basically have what is essentially I guess you can call this a symmetrical triangle. So usually when it gets 2/3 of the way, there's a breakout up or down. Again, a lot of people say that symmetrical triangles break one way more than the other. From what I've seen, it's kind of 50-50. It really, you add volume to it. there's a lot of things that you can account into seeing which way it'll break. But I'm not going to get too crazy into that part. I just want to see where we are and just kind of get a better look at the long term. So if you're not, I mean, I'd be shocked if you're not familiar with Bitcoin. But in the event that you're not, I mean, Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, obviously, and it's more of a commodity. So a lot of people argue that it's more of a currency. Really, it's more of a commodity, and it's overall. You have people all over the excuse me. You have people all over the place with Bitcoin. You have people that are extremely fundamental and they believe in Bitcoin, what it stands for, and basically the decentralized part of it. They believe that you should take control of your own currency. You should be your own bank. And then there are people that are just considering this more for the speculative play. And I'm not here to say who's right or wrong. I like it, honestly. I mean, I think it's most of all for me in my particular use case, it's fun. It's just a fun thing. It's like candy. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's no downtime. You can be bored, I guess, in the middle of the night and just go on and see a chart, or if you see a trade, you can take a trade. It's just fun. It's so volatile. It goes up and down. If you think that the stock market right now is going insane, obviously you have not been in the crypto market. So just to give you an idea of action for this current month, let me see if I pull up the percentages. So we've had a drop of near 18%, going from 10,000 almost 10,500 all the way to today's 8,600, give or take. It's volatile. I mean, that makes it a trader's paradise, and it's fun. So I kind of diverted that. I might make a video. Let me know if you're interested in a video of more of the fundamental part of it. I actually know quite a bit about this, so if you're interested, let me know. I'll make a video that's more geared towards how Bitcoin functions, what its purpose, how it can benefit humanity, and yada yada yada, and the pros and the cons of it. But for right now, just for the sake of this video, I'm going to try to see where we are and where we may possibly go. So we're still on the monthly, so I would like to draw a horizontal. So the clearest horizontal for me is over here, which is about the 6,300 range, give or take. We also have a horizontal, give or take, arguably around here. I'd say a couple of touches of the body, a couple wicks there. And then obviously we have up here, we have more of a, let me see if we can do, yeah, I guess we can dive into the weekly and get into that. I don't want to, line it up already. Lines everywhere. Don't want to be that guy putting lines up the wazoo. So if we do a Fibonacci on the swing low from down here to up there, and we go to the Fib 382, you're going to see how some of these Fibonacci levels do line up with the horizontals. I wonder if this one up here lines up with 236. Let me see. No, just below it. So we are there right now. So yeah, so from this swing low to this swing high, usually you want to see a pullback down to the 61.8 or 61.8. That's usually kind of like a buyback zone. And then sure enough, there was some consolidation here. It actually broke below it. I don't know if it hit the 886. Let me go back. let's see, 0.886. Didn't quite hit the 886 there, but it was pretty close. I'm gonna take that one off because you can get nuts with that. So we saw that we pretty much reloaded here. We broke below it, but then we respected that trend line and it broke above. So when we draw the Fibonacci again from this swing high to this swing low, we go again, and this is again a trader's paradise, especially on the higher time frames. Even on the lower time frames, it's fun. So it went all the way to the 61 point, actually exactly, no, not exactly, just a little bit above the 61.8, which again is the shorting area zone. And then once again went back down. So if we draw another Fibonacci, we go from that low to this high, and you can see that in this case we also broke down to below the 61.8 and tested the halfway point, which is usually that sweet spot, the midpoint between the 61.8 and the 78.6, which is I think the 702 or the 704. I don't know if I have it here. If I don't, it should be the 0.70. 702, I think. Oops. 0 point. Yeah. So it pretty much, actually, price didn't quite get there, but it's funny that that horizontal does line up with that, which is, it's not a Fibonacci level, but neither is 50%. But it's one of those points that traders keep in mind. So it got close to that level, and it bounced back up. So let's continue that fun little Fibonacci dance. So we go from that swing high to this swing low, and we see that we rallied and we didn't quite get to the 61.8. So now here's where a lot of traders and a lot of people are kind of like, they're like, hey, so what's going on? Nobody knows. At the end of the day, I don't care what anybody tells you, that nobody knows 100%. But it doesn't have to get to the 61.8. It could just retrace. I mean, most of the times, the 61.8 is a good pullback point, Fibonacci level, but it doesn't guarantee anything. It could have stopped at the 30.2 and kept going down, which is usually what a Fib-based trend extension goes by. So, oops, let me do this one. So let's say we go there, down here, and then to that point up there. One way to do the Fibonacci is this. So you do that Fibonacci trade extension, and the 0.618 of that extension brings you down to 5,893. It could be. A lot of times, usually instead of going all the way there, it just stops like around the 38.2, and it breaks down from there. It just depends. In this particular case, it just stopped up here. So based on this fib extension, you're looking at about 5,893, which kind of coincides with the monthly 50 EMA, which is this red line. So will it happen? I don't know. Nobody knows if that's truly going to happen. The first level that I would see for support is the 20 EMA, which is lining perfectly with this trend line. So we have to see, because so we only have 3 days for this month to end, and then this EMA is gonna, it's gonna continue. So does that mean it's gonna break below this trend line? And if it does, and we have a month to close below that, then there may be some cause for concern, and maybe that's where the symmetrical triangle does break down. We have to see, but on the monthly so far, it's hard to say whether it's bearish, if it's truly bearish, because on the macro you can see that it's just going higher and higher over the years, over time. So I don't want to be Debbie Downer and say that this is a bearish market or whatever, but I just go with the flow, and I go with what the charts say. So Let's go and see the stochastic. The stochastic is interesting in my point of view because it does catch the lows and highs very well on the monthly. So you can see that we were quote unquote oversold on stochastic. That doesn't mean that it's actually overbought or oversold. I don't know if you've seen some of my videos, but it's just a guideline. All these things are guidelines. Nothing is for sure. Things can get pinned to the overbought and oversold levels for a long, long time, and really that just means that if it's pinned overbought, it just means that the stock is weak at that point, or the asset, whatever the asset is. In this case, we're looking at Bitcoin. If it's pinned to the wait, did I say overbought or oversold? Well, anyways, I was confusing. If it's overbought, like in this region up here with the RSI, that means that it's strong. So the stock is strong, the asset is strong. If it's pinned to the green, like down here, then on the stochastic, which is the bottom indicator that I have here, then that means that it's a little bit on the weaker side. So they can be pinned to either the oversold or overbought regions. So yeah, sorry if I mixed things up there. I just, whatever. So on the stochastic, which is the bottom indicator, this one over here, it was oversold, and that actually marked that low in Bitcoin. Yeah, up here, you can see that it's pretty much pinned. Yeah, we did break down below the 80, but then quickly turned back up, and it was essentially pinned to the high side there, to the overbought region, and it pretty much called a perfect exit of the between that and also the RSI. Excuse me, I don't know what's wrong with my throat today. Sorry about that. So yeah, it's the stochastic macro monthly calls it awesome. I mean, it's really good. It even does a great job on the weekly, I believe. Let me dive back in and let me clear some of these things out because they drive me crazy. So diving into the weekly now, you can see that let me go back a little bit to see how good it does call it. And yeah, you can see that it calls this top here very well. Call this brief bottom here. When I'm just looking at the stochastic over here, which actually I should increase just so I can show you. So call the top pretty well here. As soon as it, for me, I consider this a true, I guess a true call, for lack of a better term. Once it crosses over and it crosses the K and the D, cross, and preferably both, but at least if both cross that 80 level, that's where I consider it valid, and I start paying attention. And I want confluence with a bunch of other things like RSI and fib levels and EMAs and all that stuff. As many reasons as you can have to make a trade, then better. But if you were just blinded, if you only had this one indicator up, it does a very good job. It does this high, this little high here. It gives you the idea that it's pins. Hey, look, FYI, we're getting a little overextended over here. And then sure enough, we have a cross. And let me zoom in a little bit so you can see what I mean by the cross. So we have the cross and boom, breaks below here. And that pretty much calls for a brief sell-off there. So it goes from a high of 252 all the way down to 65. So yeah, it's pretty severe there. So that goes from, give or take, it's a 75% drop. Yeah, ouch. So, and people are crying when the stock market goes down 3%. So we had a overcastic oversold over here reading, and you see that it actually called the bottom pretty darn well. And then sure enough, rallied, oversold, overbought, sorry, God Lord, I always confuse these things. And then crosses over, and then sure enough, called a pretty good top there. Called the bottom here, not shabby. All the way up here, oversold again. Here didn't do that great of a job, but it still got you in if you average dollar in. It did a pretty, if you're average dollaring. And I mean, so far, this is your only quote unquote fail. And not even, because if you bought here and you sold up here, you still had a gain of, good Lord, 50, wow. It's almost 60%. Crazy. Yeah, that's why you should take your profits. But that was a nice little fake out because it had a W there as well, like a market structure there, and yeah. So you're not. No one's ever going to give you 100% of no indicator is going to give you 100%. So you can get that out of your mind. We go down here, crossed over to the upside, and then called what was essentially the long-term bottom, sort of. Yeah, I believe so. So if you would have bought here, you would have still been, let's say you went long and you're an investor, you're not thinking about day trading and stuff like that, you would have bought down here and you would have been in this trade from, let's see here, so from approximately, let's not even go that low, let's go there all the way to the near top. So this is insane. That's an 11,185% gain. I'll say that again. 11,185% freaking gain. I mean, that's insane. It's crazy. Now, to be fair, it would have told you, Stochastic would have told you to sell at this point here. Damn magnets. So it would have told you to sell, yeah, around here on the 15th, and it still would have been a 78% gain. So if you combine that with like Fibonacci, so let's say that that you're buying the pullbacks as well to the 61.8, you would have seen that, I think, was it here? So you would have probably bought back, oops. So you would have sold here, and most likely would have, you would have drawn a Fibonacci from here. You would have bought back somewhere here. If you would have drawn it here, you would have bought back at this low, actually. So let's assume that you would have bought there. It just depends on your trading strategy and what you do. That's why it's nice to use as many points of as many things to create confluence. EMAs, this, that, whatever. You can even do this crossover of the 20 crossing over the 50. You could do, there's so many, it's endless. The strategies are endless. But the point is, had you bought in here, gains would have been crazy. So you didn't exactly get a stochastic low reading on the weekly down here, but it did give it to you here. Up here was very brief. Some people would not even have traded this. I probably would have. It's just hard because I have the stochastic at 80, and it just, yeah, the slow stochastic, I usually like for it to be more, a little bit higher than that for me to pull the trigger. So I don't know, honestly, it would have been, I would have had to study that a little bit better, but I think I would have sold, but who knows. Anyways, the call the high here, so it gave you like a bunch of little high readings. So, and finally give you the ultimate high up here. But you can see that it actually tested. Here it did break below the 50, but for the most part, it tested and stayed above, which is bullish, above the stochastic 50% level. So, and by the way, if you're not too familiar with stochastic, you know, it's pretty much any oscillator between above the 50% or the 50 level is bullish, below the 50 is typically bearish. Some people say that below the 30, I believe it is, or the 40, I think it's below the 30 is where it's truly bearish, and above the 60 is or the 70 is where it's truly bullish. And between those, so between the 60 or the 70 and the 30 and the 40, give or take, it's like a neutral zone. It really depends on how you do your thing. But I digress. Let's go back over here. So on the weekly, we see that we're basically in the same kind of thing. This week's candle is pretty insane. There's been bigger candles. Look at this sucker over here. But yeah, I mean, this is just it's not so fun to experience if you're in on it long term. But hey, you've had a lot of upside. I think I could be wrong, but I think I read that it was the best performing asset of the decade, Bitcoin. Makes sense. I mean, it's just gone from $2 up to 20, almost 20,000. It's hard to go against it. So on the weekly, where can we expect certain moves, right? Like everybody wants to know, and I'm sorry if my microphone is making like it's just scraping against my shirt and it drives me nuts. So I gotta work on that. But let's say, yeah, all this talk is fun, but like, where are we going, right? That's probably what everybody wants to know. So there's several ways to do it. When it comes to extensions, some people draw it. Everybody draws them differently, I think. The way I learned originally was this way here. So swing low, swing high, and then this is sometimes a fake out level or your first stop here. So it was possible for us to, I mean, it's still possible for us to hit the 15,000. We don't know which way it's going to break out. With the upside of 20,528. But I like to go with more recent price action to see where we are headed. I don't like to, personally, I don't like to fool myself with all these crazy numbers. We could do a macro one, but for me, I like to do it more on the closer when it comes to profit targets. And you can see that if we take this swing low to this swing high, we have the 1.13 here, which would have been an upside, or could still be an upside of 11,000. And then with the 1.618, which is usually the main target, being 13,000. Now, it still could happen. We just got to see what's gonna happen with this recent pullback. So I think I drew the fib extension. So the fib extensions on the trend-based fib extensions, I've kind of gotten to like a little bit more lately. So I think this is the one that I previously did. So swing low, swing high, and it gives us a target of 5,893 on the downside. So that's, us looking at worst case scenario over here, then it's going to be one of those cases of it breaking the trend line and then possibly being ultra bearish. It will hopefully find support here at the 200 EMA on the weekly, and but yeah, that would not be bullish, especially breaking this trend line. That to me is not best case scenario. Before this breakdown, and I believe we still have a good chance of getting there, is if we draw the fibs from the previous swing low down here at 3,000 and change, 3122, up to a swing high of 13,831. Wait, no, that's not true. Swing high of 13,880, and then swing low of 64.25. So that fib extension would have brought us to 13,073 with a likely, with a good target of the 1.272 in this fib, which is I've tried to compare it with the previous fib extensions that I'm used to, and it usually lines up with the 1.618. So I typically like that confluence. We can actually test that out, sort of. See if we can do it. We can go here to here. And yeah, sure enough, you can see that the 1.618 on this type of fib extension lands at 20,528, and this trend-based fib extension at the 1.272 is 20,108. $400. Yeah, I hear you, but pretty close when it comes to confluence there. Another way to draw the fib extensions, which I don't like. I mean, at the end of the day, what I've seen is there are three ways to draw the fib extensions. It's up to you to see which one works for you. But what I've seen is that there is confluence between them. So, take that for what it is. So the other way of doing it is to draw from like this swing low to this swing high. And then you'd have the you see this 1.618 lines up with this 1.4. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. So in this case, this particular one, the 200% level, is give or take in that region. But I don't know. Take it for what it is. So these two gave you a similar price target of 20,528. And to be honest with you, we could still be in that target could still be in play, because we've had a pullback, but there's no guarantees that it's going to completely break down and go all the way, go south. It could go forward, it could go up, it could go to the 13,000 breakdown, it can go up to 20,108. It's, there's so many things it could do. Now, reasons of why it may not, in my perspective, is stochastic is in the overbought region, which again doesn't necessarily mean it's got to flip over, but we currently have, obviously this is on a weekly, so it's going to take some time for it to play out and confirm, but it's not looking too hot at this particular moment. So we have to see how this whole thing plays out. So let me see if I can go into the daily to see a different. Usually I like the 3-day or the 2 days lately, just because it gives me a clearer picture. The dailies and anything below that usually, not that it confuses me, but it just stresses me out. Sometimes. I mean, it's just, it depends. So on the daily, we can go a little bit more in depth. So on both the stochastic and the RSI. So the RSI here, you can see that we had a clear uptrend here on the RSI. We were up, and then broke down. Also had a little bit of confluence here on the stochastic, and yeah, you don't, once it breaks and it's active. So basically, the RSI, you can use it almost the same way as you would price action with trend lines. So you can do everything you do with price action, you can do with RSI, you can do with stochastic. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, almost 5 points of resistance, support, breaks below it, and then briefly tries to use it as it basically acts like resistance. And then right now we have market structure fail. So again, market structure fails just like in price action. We have just this fail here, and it's just going down. So we can even draw like horizontals here, and you can see that if we do a line there, you can see that it's basically, this is like a nice little test, because we haven't broken below it since the low of January 3rd, give or take. So ever since we've been bullish, boom, break below it. So this happened in February 15th, just after Valentine's Day. Well, at least they waited until after Valentine's. And yeah, so we've been, a little bit bearish, Now, keep in mind that all this action happened above the 50 line on the RSI, which is bullish from my perspective. Now, we did break below this in the last 2 or 3 days. So now we have to see what happens with this horizontal here on the RSI. Is it going to bounce and come, go up? I can't even talk today. Is it going to bounce off this horizontal and break above the 50 and then continue its bullish run? Is it going to bounce between this horizontal, the 50, and then play within there and then break down? No idea. I think anybody that tells you what's going to happen most likely doesn't know what's going to happen. So these horizontals I drew on the monthly, so I consider it to be more not more valid, but they have more weight to them. So what I can do now is we can draw some horizontals here on the daily just to get a better idea of where we are. And I think I'll change these to a different color so we can identify which are the horizontals from the daily and from the week, from the monthly. Sorry. Jeez. Sorry guys, I've had even though it's been a slow day, it's been, I don't know, just sluggish today. It's like a weird overcasty day, so bear with me. So, no, not purple, let's put it, just want a color that doesn't like mess with any of the indicators. Red, it looks, maybe green. Yeah, let's do green. So we have that green, and I'm gonna do these a little bit thicker too, so that way it might come across clear on screen for you. So we have one horizontal there. We have another one here. So what I look for, what anybody should really look for when it comes to horizontals is, you want it to act as support and resistance. So here it acted as support, broke down, tested resistance, broke well below that, came back up, so resistance, broke down, broke above it, then acted as support. You get the idea. So we have that one there. Same thing here. We have this whole consolidation area here. Then it breaks down, breaks above. But then recently, it used it as resistance, broke above. It bounced between this horizontal we just drew, and then acted as support between that. So right now, if you ask me where we're likely going on a daily chart, I would say, and right now it's hard because that 200 EMA on the daily is acting as support. But if we break below that, I would say that easily the next spot is 8,300 level, 8,250. I think 8,250 makes the most sense. But it's somewhere between, and again, these lines are not, they're not pin perfect. They're not, hey, look, it's at 82.53 over here. It's going to be 82.53. No. It's a zone. It's like a little area of where it could be. It could go 8,300, which is very likely because if we zoom in down, let me see. So you can see here that is 8,300 at the base of the body, the bottom of the body of the candle. So that's a very likely spot. If you want to be more aggressive and get in on bids, then you would set it there instead of a little bit lower if you're worried that you're not going to get filled. It could be a little bit lower. It could be to the bottom of this wick over here. So 8,000. So 8,300 all the way to 8,000. That's likely the next move if it breaks below this 200 EMA. Just notice my face is dark, but who cares? And if it breaks below that, then I would look for this trend line to act as support. And I would say, honestly, that is likely another, that's another horizontal for me. So we have some support here, broke below it, broke above it. It didn't even respect it here, but then here acted as resistance, resistance briefly, broke above, then used it as resistance, as support. So yeah, there's quite a few levels here that we can keep an eye on. Let me see if I could change this to, I think this green is a little too dull. Can I put, I guess I'll do the hot pink, so that way it's easy to see on the screen. Hopefully it won't be too confusing with this 200 EMA, which I also have in pink. But hey, they're all support and resistance levels at the end of the day, so it is what it is. Excuse me. So if we continue breaking down today, yeah, I see that if that 200 EMA doesn't hold, then the 8,300 to 80, I think I said 8,200, give or take, that would be a decent area, maybe even as low as 8,000, because I think it would be this little section here. That would make the most sense. Then if it does break below that, I would look at this trend line to act as support. And if that fails, then, well, I mean, it's happened a few times. If that fails, maybe there's a tail or shadow down, whatever you want to call it, touching the 77, between 7,800 and 7,700, give or take. And if it does break below that, then that could be a little bit bearish, and then I would see, I mean, there's other support horizontals here. Maybe even this guy right here makes sense, because we have support over here, and then just a lot of action over here. So broke it, acted as support, brief resistance, but mostly support, and it broke above that. So that would be your next level, and if it breaks below that, down to 6,300 is what it looks like. So yeah, I said I didn't want to dirty or mess the, oh crap, mess. Thought I was dragging down the RSI. I was trying not to, mess up the charts too much, but it's kind of hard when you have quite a few levels. So yeah, so to kind of make it clear, support here found at 8,600, give or take. If it breaks below that, then I would see 8,300 to 8,000. Then I would look for this trend line to hold as support. If it breaks below that, then 7,800 to 7,700, give or take. And if it breaks below that, then we're looking at maybe 7,150. And if it breaks below that, not to be ultra bearish, but 6,300. So trying to give you different ideas of what can happen, different areas of support and resistance. Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, Bitcoin is going to do, any asset is going to do what it wants to do. There's no 100% anything. So I hope that kind of gives you a decent perspective. This is my first Bitcoin video, my first crypto video. I was kind of staying away from it, not for any particular reason, but I also love stocks and that kind of thing. But it's something that I enjoy everything. I try to, when putting money in, I definitely try to stick to stocks mostly. Crypto is more of just a longer term play for me, just because you never know if it actually is going to be the next thing that takes over. And so I figured, why not diversify their portfolio and do that. So, and by the way, I want to make it clear that what I'm showing here is it's just me informing you. It's not financial advice. It's not, there's no guarantees. There's no saying that this is going to go any lower, that is going to go any higher. I'm just giving you probabilities based on the technical analysis that I use on a day-to-day basis. And yeah, I don't want to go too crazy into it. I know that a lot of people like to show and pretend that they know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. All I can do is look at the charts, draw my lines, and look for confluence and see if things are going to match up. Another thing that I can do is I can draw this at the volume profile for additional confluence. And a lot of times it does line up very nicely. And yeah, I don't want to get too into that. But if you're interested in more videos about Bitcoin and you know, upside targets, downside targets, or just crypto in general, I follow it closely. So let me know. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If I get enough interest, I'll start making these part of the routine. So yeah, hopefully you appreciate this video, you like it, you learn something. If something's not clear, something that I can explain a little bit better, let me know. And yeah, that's basically it. That's all for now. Thanks a lot. I'm Tony. Like, subscribe, share, and have a great day. Thanks. Bye.